Hi,
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Storytelling Corner. My name is Cleo Wright, and I own Cull Books at 677 Blue Hills Avenue in Hartford, Connecticut. And that's an open invitation for you to come up, sit down, have a cup of coffee or tea, and let's talk books. Maybe you'll even buy a few. But today on our program, we're doing a little more a serious note here. We're here with Lillie Holiday, and she is the mother of Omar Sharif Thornton, and she wants to tell us about her son and what happened to him and why he ended his life the way he did. And right now we're going to turn to Lillie, and she's going to just read us some of the things that she has come to from this event that happened on August 3rd, 2010. Lillie.
First, I'd like to say my condolences go to all the families that involved, including myself. Omar, the system is broken. Omar lost faith in the system. Omar Sharif Thornton is a victim of institutional racism. The men that lost their lives were doing business as usual. Many, I should have my glasses on. Money and power rules. Thank you. Money and power rules. That is why the Hartford distributors did not stand up to take their responsibility. In Omar's mind, he believed what he did would change the system that has worked against him his whole life. Institutional racism, also known as institutionalized racism. Institutional racism is not just black people. Institutionalized racism is all different races of people. I'm just wondering, have you read the book Strange Fruit by Billie Holiday?
Okay, and what is that book about?
The book is about how people hang in a tree and the blood drips from their body, and it's more of abuse and things that happened to people of color back in the days. Now
I opened with that because I wanted you to know where Lillie Holiday is in her, and she is still mourning terribly for her son, and knowing that there are other families who have been victim to this tragedy on August 3rd, 2010. We're going to talk a little bit about her book. And some of the things that I was thinking about the book, but I am going to read his last 7 minutes right now.
Okay.
The last 7 minutes of his life. You know that Omar Sharif Thornton went to work for Hartford Distributors and went in and took the lives of 7 people?
8 people.
8 people. In his distress on how he had been treated, and this is what he came to. A young man who has worked hard all of his life and got caught up in what we are all taught when we are coming up. Work hard, have integrity, and when we go to church, we hear these things. If you work hard, you can get what you want. You can get to where you want to go. unfortunately, a lot of times they don't teach us the kind of system that we are living in to get to where we want to go, to protect ourselves from the system. And I don't think many parents want to tell their children, but especially if you have a son, you need to tell him how to protect himself when he's out there in the world and riding around in his car. And I'm going to tell you with this young man, how he got to. What did he come to? He felt trapped. He felt there was nothing else to do. He has tried all of his life, and now he is trapped. And still he does not know what institutional racism has done to him. He keeps on bumping that wall. And we're gonna talk a little bit about that. But I want you to, before we even start that, I want you to hear the last 7 minutes of his life and what he said to his mother. If I could find it. Yeah, I don't think is it the very last page? No, that's his brother. Well, we can keep on talking while I am.
Yeah, and I still
looking for that.
I still blame me basically so much for what happened to him, because I didn't tell him that he would be treated differently. I just always taught him, if you were a man, you just work hard, you do the right things and what you're supposed to do, that life would be good. That's what I taught him. I didn't say you have to look out for racist people and this and that's going to happen and you have to be able to afford it. So in my heart, I still feel pain from that. I still feel like there was just more that I could have done if I had the knowledge, but I just didn't have the knowledge to talk to him in the way that I should have.
Find that in the end of the in the book. Well, you know, a lot of our parents, we don't tell our children or don't teach our children what's coming up. So happened to me, so happens to thousands and thousands of other people. And
he got like a hard lesson because his girlfriends mostly were Caucasian. So he got to know that side of the world in a different way, where I didn't talk to him about it, but he got that experience in a different way because of the fact that he was basically dating Caucasian girls.
Okay, so he thinks that was part of his problem at the Hartford distributors?
I know he said he didn't want his girlfriend to come there because if they see her, you know, he didn't know how they might treat him. And then he said that because she did come there to bring him lunch or something, the treatment amped up a little bit more difficult than it was before.
Okay. Well, there's just some things that I thought when I was reading the book, and you say repeatedly how he wanted them to respect him as a man. And that is all through the book. Him looking for respect from the companies that he worked for.
That's because the companies that he worked for during his time, they were always not standing up to what they agreed to. Omar was the type of person that you didn't have to give it to him in writing. He just believed a man's word was him. And that's where he lost out a lot, because he would just agree with them and said, okay, and he would keep his part of the bargain, but they wouldn't keep theirs.
After and I was noticing in the book, after the first couple of times that this happened to him, say the first 2 or 3 times it happened to him, why did it happen to him again in the exact same manner that had happened to him in the first 3 times? What, was it there a lesson to be learned? Was there something? Why did it continually happen over and over again, and him not change any of his behaviors? Just asking you.
Because actually in Omar's mind, he still had that if he did the right thing, that the next person would do the right thing as well. And he lost a lot believing like that, and believing in people that they would just stand up to what they agreed to, even to the point when he had his own business. He hired mainly blacks to work for him.
Family and friends,
and family and friends, and they made a total disaster of everything. And I think that was like kind of the last thing for him, because after that, he went to work for the Hartford distributors. They had called him to come and fill an application out at a hotel someplace. And I was like, I didn't want him to really go because he was giving them information and he didn't really know who they were. And he said, well, I don't have anything to lose. And he met with them.
So he was a really nice guy and really looking for that American dream.
Yes.
He didn't have, I didn't see that he had, when I'm boss, when someone tells me I'm boss. You know what I mean? And I run it. I didn't get that sense. He was just such a nice guy, and he let so many things go.
Yeah, he did.
He let so many things go, and in the book, you had to rescue him many times.
Many times, yeah. That's why they said he was a mama's boy, because his dad wasn't in his life. So a lot of times he wouldn't tell me things. He would tell his brother, and his brother would tell me, and then I would say, okay, and then I would have to do something. Even when he bought trucks from this company, I had to write the contract at home. I don't have a lot of knowledge and education and stuff like that, but I put a contract together, and when I went there, they signed the contract and started taking on their responsibilities with the people that he bought the trucks from.
Okay, we're going to hold right at that point. Hopefully we can find his last 7 minutes. Right now we are going to go to commercial, and we will be right back with Miss Lillie Holiday.
Okay.
Let's face it, there's a lot you don't know about sickle cell disease.
Like that it affects millions.
People in almost all races.
Black and white.
Indian and Asian.
Hispanic and Mediterranean.
And that it can affect you or someone you love.
No matter where you come from.
Let's face it, there's a lot you don't know about sickle cell disease. And that's a disease too.
Call the 211 info line to learn more.
Hello, I'm J. Stan McCauley, and I'm exploring a run for mayor of the city of Hartford in the 2019 election. It's undeniable that Hartford has many challenges. However, I believe that our residents are our strength. The question is, do you believe, like I do, in the potential of Hartford? You see the many assets the city has, but do you wonder, as I do, why we are still struggling to move ahead? Do you wonder why the solutions being offered to us just don't seem to get the job done? Well, creating a vibrant city begins with you. We have incredible people who live in the city, who have great solutions to Hartford's biggest challenges. But you don't always have a platform to have your ideas heard, let alone given an opportunity to co-create solutions that work for you, that work for us, that work for Hartford. Hartford's journey will be bumpy, and we'll continue to face highs and lows that challenge us to work smarter and come together as a community that is willing to capitalize on the power of our collective diversity of thought. The challenges facing Hartford will require each of us to act, whether in small ways or big ones. If you're with us on this journey, give me a call at 860-944-9797 and host a listening event for me. Invite a few of your friends so we can explore the possibilities together for a better Hartford.
Welcome back to Miss Cleo's Storytelling Corner, and we're going to continue right now to read Omar's final words. And right now we're talking about the tragedy that happened on 8/3/2010 when Omar Sharif Thornton went into Hartford Distributors and shot 8 people, and then pulled it, and then went and took his own life. And these are the words that he called his mother before he ended his life. And these were the last 7 minutes of his life. And these are the things that he told his mother. Good morning, Mom. Turn the TV off. I have to tell you something that is real serious. I killed the 5 most racist people, and I'm going to end my own life. And I want you to know that these people have treated me bad. They're racist. They have no respect for me, and they have been hurting black people for a long time. And what I do realize is that there will not be no place for black people in America unless I make this sacrifice to try to change things. I want you to realize there is things in the house that I want you to be able to find. So I'm going to tell you where I put everything so that you will find them. Don't be upset, Mom. This is the only decision for me to make. I've tried everything in this life, and it just doesn't get better. I love you, Mom, and I love my family. This decision would change things for all of us in this lifetime. And while he was talking, I can hear the pain, the hurt, and the sadness in his voice. I know he just wished it was a different way out, but he continued on. Mom, I tried everything, but this world has no place for me as a black man, and everything has failed me here. Racism and hate has to stop, Mom. I did everything I could, but still, the demons of hate and racism is still after me. Mom, please don't worry about me. I'm doing exactly what I have to do, and everything is going to be okay. I love you, but I got to go now. After that conversation with my baby, I don't even want to talk about me right now. I don't even want to talk about what I'm feeling because I can't. There is no way to explain my hurt right now. And the only thing that I could say to Omar was, Omar, I love you. I love you more than life itself. Omar, I love you. And then all of a sudden, I heard the phone click and go dead. This is a young man who is totally trapped in what he was brought up to be, what he was brought up to believe. And more than anything else, most of us, we're brought up to believe And then we see this is not working. And we change directions and we make other decisions and we stop looking for the outside of us and start looking on the inside of us and go on. Omar was a sensitive soul. He could not do that. Although he would like to have tried, he could not do that because he was a sensitive soul. And a brave soul, but he also took 8 lives. And 8 families were also destroyed. Those 8 people, they had mothers, wives, children, whether they be racist or not. So how do you deal with that? Omar says, I can't deal with it anymore, but I know how to make it better. If these 2 people go, if these 5 people or 7 people are not here, it's going to be better for black people. Little did he know, it's better for black people to love themselves and go on and learn how to manipulate the situation like the situation is manipulating us. In racism and institutional racism, I've been in Hartford all my life. I know what Omar's talking about.
I believe that
Go ahead.
Racism is a disease.
Definitely.
And I believe that Omar got infected a long time ago, and his infection kept growing.
When you say he was infected, what was he infected with?
Racism.
Infected, now I'm misunderstanding. Was he infected with what? Racism?
What I'm saying, he had endured so much racism and so much hate until he started figuring a way to try to resolve it and to try to stop the pain and to try to stop the 8 people that was hurting him and make it that they don't hurt anybody else. And so when he made his decision, he wasn't totally himself.
Right. He did not understand.
Right.
That his death would cause so much pain to so many other people.
Right.
Just like the other people's families, it caused so much pain to them.
Right.
He did not know that.
He didn't know that.
How?
I think he was just so in so much pain and so much hurt.
Yes.
And in so much of trying to give back the pain that they've given and let them see what they were doing to him. So he started going to work where he was no longer being himself.
How could that have, in these years since his death, how do you think that could change? How could you think that could change? How do you think, what could you have done or family could have done? What could have been done to make him see that he had already won, that he was a man of integrity, that he did work hard, that he did all of these things? What could have changed his mind and turned that focus not on those people who were hiring him, but himself, the power within himself? What could have changed that?
That's the opportunity that I wish he had, and I think that when he was at the Hartford Distributors, they had the opportunity and the chance to really change it, because they could see what was going on there. They saw the noosing around the president's neck. They saw a dying nigger on the wall, and they knew that that was a lot for one person to accept when you're working with 63 Caucasian people. They should have made some kind of decision other than just wiping it off the wall. And I think that would have played a major difference in his life.
I disagree.
You do? Okay.
I disagree.
Okay.
Because they weren't going to turn it around. they were brought up just like Omar was brought up, with their racism. They didn't get that racism yesterday. They got that racism as children. All their feelings came with children, just like Omar's came with children. So if they wiped it off the walls, do you think that that would have really at that time made a difference?
That's my point. That's what they did. They just wiped it off the wall. They should have tried to seek some kind of other help for him. In other words, they didn't do anything to protect him, period. They just said, okay, we wipe it off the wall and business as usual. He's a human being, and he needed to be, they needed to think about what was going on in his mind with all the people that he were working with and the stuff that he was going through every day.
How could we have forced them?
I don't know about we forcing them, but I'm
thinking... You would have had to have forced them.
They are a company, and they should be obligated to make sure that certain things don't take place.
We went through the 60s. They didn't integrate those schools because they weren't forced. All of the laws that have been changed to protect people of color were not changed because a company decided they were going to do the right thing.
Oh, I know that. I don't doubt
that. What I'm saying is, and I feel for him so much because he was trapped and he did not know how to get out. But there were ways to get out of that, and he didn't know how to get out of that, and he didn't have any help to get out of that.
No, he didn't. That's what I mean, because
but they weren't going to help him.
If I was aware of what had happened on that job, or what was going on, the full details of it, then I could have intervened and did something. But I didn't know that he had seen nooses on the wall and died nigger and all that. I didn't know. That was, to him, that's a major disrespect. And I can imagine him just losing his self, because he didn't even tell me that this was going on. I found this out from the people that worked there and his girlfriend with the pictures on her phone. That's
I would have to say that.
Okay, we're going to introduce. I'm sorry, you know, Miss Cleo, she gets carried away, but you love me anyway, right? We're going to introduce Ed Putman. And he has read this book, and he has opinions and questions and conclusions about what he has read. And we're going to go to commercial, and we're going to come right back, and we're going to talk to Ed. Be right back.
He's getting in there. He's like, wait a minute.
No, I wasn't trying to get in there. But I do agree with you.
These are the monsters of the road. Ever drive alongside a tractor trailer in the rain? Scary. You're hoping they don't change lanes. Now they see you, now they don't. This monster can crush you in an instant. They may be insured for millions, but you're not thinking of that in a dangerous situation. I'm attorney Jeffrey Dressler. Have an accident, you know what to do. Because this is what we do. 24/7, 11/22.
The folks at Cull Books in Hartford want to remind parents, kids need to exercise the most important muscle in their body, the brain. How do you do that? Read. What happens? Well, let me tell you. The imagination soars, the creativity blossoms, the world opens up, and the need to be entertained by outside forces diminishes. Don't believe me? Try it. You won't be sorry, and in time, either will your kids. Cull Book cares about your child's literacy. Join Miss Cleo every week on Miss Cleo's Storytelling Corner, online at accesstv.org. Welcome back to Miss Cleo's Storytelling Corner. And we are now going to introduce, I'm sorry, Ed Putman. And he has read The Voice of Omar Sharif Thornton, and he has some conclusions that he would like to share. So go ahead, Ed.
Okay, I would like to say that I do think institutional racism will change, and it can change. I understand Cleo saying Omar was not going to change it, and it's important for others who are suffering to know they're not going to change it alone. But I think corporations, large ones, have already changed. I know at UConn there's a lot of black professors, and slowly it's changing there. And I think it will change. I think stories like Lillie has told us about her son will help leaders in companies to see we're bullies and we got to stop. Mm-hmm. I think it'll happen. But to get to my part, I got on Facebook a message on Messenger from Lillie some month, maybe about almost a year ago, maybe. And she said, "Have you read the book yet?" And I said, "I don't know what book you're talking about." I didn't know Lillie. I didn't know, she wasn't a Facebook friend. It was almost an accident, I think, she got me and asked that question. I said, "No, but I'll read it." Then when I kind of learned what it was about, I had my misgivings, mm-hmm. because we all, even 8 years later, find that such a traumatic, such a horrible thing that was done at Hartford Distributors, that I was basically feeling guilty to read that story, to find out anything good about Omar. At the same time, I thought, I feel bad for his mother. So I read the book. And by the time I got to that letter of those 7 minutes, yeah. I realized that I'm glad I read it. For one thing, I didn't know there was such a thing as institutional racism. I knew the police were in trouble. Mm-hmm. They were in trouble, I mean. And that's institutional racism, because they all stick together in that big blue line. And even some of those 8 may not have been as racist as Omar thought, because you follow the gang. That's yes. what bullies do. They get a gang behind them, and that happens. Yes. So that's how I happened to read the book, and I recommend it highly for anyone who has the nerve to read it and to contemplate and to see how much suffering goes on needlessly, and it's amongst the black community. And it's because they're a minority, not because they're deserving of mistreatment. That's my story. So I recommend the book.
And I recommend the book also, although it was a hard read for me, because I just see the trap. I just see the trap, and I see that trap that he did not know how to get out of. You know, I'm saying at first, you want to get him? Get out and get him, and learn how to get him and go back.
And the next thing too, when you talk about the trap and him getting out, when I say he lost his faith in the system, yeah.
Omar I'm not saying he could have done that.
No, but what I'm saying to you is that even that day, if he called me before anything happened, I would not have been able to stop it.
Of course not.
Because he had been through the system so many times. He went there to a course because I said, Omar, just take it to court and it'll be okay. They will see your point and they will understand it, and everything will work out. Well, he took him to court. And then the court system wouldn't even let him talk in the court. Just say, no, you can't talk. Just kept shutting him up. And then give the award to the people that he worked for. They said he drove the car around for 40 hours when he worked 2 jobs. He was working for the Hartford Distributors and for them. So it was impossible for him to drive a truck around for 40 hours. He could barely get 4 hours and 5 hours sleep. But the court, the judge didn't pay him any attention. And he had other things like that they used him as an example. So the system failed him as well.
Yes.
So the help you say that he would think about trying to get when he was at the Hartford Distributors, that was gone. He wasn't going to go and try to get no court to try to help him or file nothing else.
Oh, I think by the time he got to the Hartford Distributors, it was
already,
almost a wrap.
It was a wrap. All they needed
yes.
to do was just treat him like a man and respect him, and he would have just did whatever he needed to do. It's like they had him down in the basement stacking beer. The first time they called him up to do a delivery, it was a major snowstorm.
Yes.
He didn't even tell me that they had called him up to do a delivery because, I would have been like, why? Why do they want you to do this in a big snowstorm when they got you packing beer? So he went and he did the deliveries and came back and everything got delivered, and they stood in the hallway and clapped their hands and then said, tomorrow you go back down and work in stacking the beer. Mentally, that did something to him as well. So he had a lot going on with him mentally, dealing with what they were doing and how they were treating him on that job. And he was already at a place where he wasn't going to turn around or go to a court system or anything like that. Even if he hadn't did anything and called me on the phone, I wouldn't have not been able to do that, because all his life I say, go to the courts, they'll see the truth and everything will be okay, and that never happened.
So, comes back to me that the question is, how do we fight institutional racism? How do we bring up our children to recognize institutional racism? And once they recognize it, what is their reaction? What should they do about the situation that they're in? Of course, there's several things that you could do, because a lot of us live, and there are still people who were there, I think, when Omar was there at Hartford Distributors. They're still there, right?
Yeah,
some of them,
yep, they're still there.
They saw this. So there's a element of fear here, not stepping up, losing my job. I can't lose my job. I need to feed my family. Taking it, and still not doing anything for it. Looking. So how do you train your sons? How do you train your children? I'm not saying that I have the answer to this, because Ms. Cleo does not have the answer, but there are people thinking about these things. What do we do? How do we train our children? And my son had a situation in a grocery store where he was being very much mistreated, and he couldn't get out. The family had to go in there and pull him out. He said, "Put that." I was in the cutting up meat. Well, he had a cousin that said, no more. Put it down. Let's go. And so they were going out of that store. There would be another person who probably could have handled that and gone further, but my son couldn't handle it, and so.
See, that's like with me, with Omar. It was always with me fighting situations that he were in, because I didn't understand how he was being engulfed with racism and what it was really doing to him, the form it was taking in his life. And I kept helping him out of things and standing up with him to try to protect him, because I didn't have the knowledge of what was really going on.
And just as, I learned about institutional racism from Lillie and reading the book, now I learn how the individual black person needs counseling so that he'll know they're not the only ones going through this. They know that, but I'm saying it wouldn't be bad to have a group therapy just like you might have for other problems.
When I was coming up, there were these mothers, and I thought that they were so mean, but they would be yelling at their children, and they would say, "Look, you got to be better than them. You got to do this. I don't want to see this in this house." I mean, they just carried on. And my parents never did that, but I learned that from going to other parents. So even though you're kind of surprised, you know, I'm a nice person. I'm doing the best I can. I'm working hard. I'm doing just like Omar, and still not getting the respect that you.
Yeah. It's sad that we live in a world where the color of our skin makes such a difference that we need to train our kids how to save their lives just because of the color of their skin. That's been going on from the beginning of time. We've lost so many people due to that fact. Not just Omar. There's hundreds of people have been lost due to the fact of the color of their skin and how they dealt with situations that happened to them. It's getting better. We're not where we was before, but we're certainly not where we should be today.
In this thing of racism, we have doctors, we have built cities, we have been successful in so many ways. They may not say it out there. You may not hear it in the classroom, and you may not hear it on the newspaper, but we have built a country. We have built a country. And I just think that if more of us knew our history, that we already have respect, because we built the country.
We have built the country, but we have racism under every layer that we built.
Right.
We always got to jump through hoops.
But what I'm trying to say is we're still there.
Yeah, we're still here.
We're still here.
Some of us.
And some of us are still here.
Yes.
So how do you bring up
the next generation? When there ever be a time when we don't have to worry about the color of our skin, and we don't have to tell our kids more than just work hard and be who you are, and life will be okay with you. Will there ever be a time?
Well, I wonder how much of that is due to minority. In other words, if you're a minority, is it going to always be a problem? You know, in other words, suppose I were in South Africa, I wonder how whites are treated there. You know, if it's a minority problem, all you can do is be more prolific.
Well, I don't think it's well, we're really not minorities, and I really don't think that.
Well, you're only 10% relative to whites, right?
Well, in this city, we are not minorities.
True.
In this city, we are not a minority, and so we should be running a whole lot of stuff, huh?
That's true.
So, how we get there, I don't know. This is a discussion. This is a discussion, a beginning of a discussion. Maybe you've discussed it many times. Maybe you know other Omars.
Because I think losing my son in 8/3/2010 is like, you don't expect anything like this to happen. You don't expect to have a young man on one line of the phone telling you that they're racist here, they treat me bad. You just think that shouldn't happen.
And it should not. We're going to close our show right now, and you think about the book, think about what happened to Omar. I know we have a multitude of opinions, and if you have an opinion, you really want to tell it to me, give us a call. But things do have to change, and things are changing. So, I have to say to you, goodbye for now. And remember, read a little, write a little, dream big. And I'll see you next week.